Hi, welcome to week 7, unbelievably, of Essential Reporting. And today we're going to be just looking back over a bit of a reminder of the assignments, because I know you'll be starting to think about the assignments. And also we're going to be looking at the rise of the converged newsroom and see what that term means in practice within the media industry. So I'm just going to put myself down into the corner down there and get on with things. So uh, first of all, just a reminder about the editor's code. Remember this? This is the IPSO, the Independent Press Standards Organization. They publish a thing called the editor's code, and this is a crucial ethical guideline to which we must all work. It sets out what you can and cannot do in terms of intrusion into grief and intrusion into privacy, in terms of accuracy, how we need to um, uh, talk to when we can and we can't speak to young people, how we need to behave around hospitals, all of these things. And it also sets out in that nice blue box down in the corner down here what we actually mean by the public interest. So when people use the term public interest, what do they actually mean? So this is an ethical guideline which you have to adhere to, and you'll know in the ethical approval for the module, which we talked about in week 1, you need to adhere to this. And this is the code which the whole industry, the whole print and online industry adheres to. There's a separate code for broadcast called the Ofcom code. And I know Andrew Fletcher will have spoken to you about that. But for now, make sure you've read the editor's code. It's one side of A4, doesn't take very long, but it is a crucial document that you must have read and adhere to throughout your journalistic career. So what are we looking at this week? So in the online lecture, in this, as I say, we're going to be looking at the assignments. Then we're going to talk about the converged newsroom, and then I'll do another brief video about newsroom transformation at the Manchester Evening News, in which I was involved, just as an example. In the workshops this week, obviously we'll be doing lots more news writing to practice for the news writing test, but we'll also talk briefly about some basic online skills, things like search engine optimization, SEO, and about how to write a decent online headline. But that'll be in the face-to-face workshops through the week, or if you are unable to come to the face-to-face workshop because you are self-isolating, you can come to the Monday morning 9 a.m. Monday morning workshop, which is online. So moving on. So remember, there's 2 assignments. So one is the news writing test, and that's an hour and 30 minutes you get to do a news writing test, and that will be held at 10 a.m. on Thursday, December the 3rd. So it's an online test, so you'll do it remotely. You won't come into the building, you'll be doing that remotely. But we will monitor the similarity between tests. So we have software which monitors similarity. So if your answers are identical or significantly similar to someone else's answers, we will look into that. So just stick by the rules, normal exam rules of doing your own work and submitting your own work. So that's a news writing test, very much in the style of the news writing exercises we're doing in the workshops. Second assignment is a critical analysis of a news story and a log, and I'll talk in more detail about what that means shortly. But that is due in at 4 p.m. on Monday, January the 11th. So that's next year, and you think, well, that's miles away. Well, yeah, it's a good bit of time, but I think you need to start thinking about that now and starting to pull that together. Don't leave it until the last minute. As always with university assignments, you'll get your feedback and grades 15 working days later. I'm just stressing the working bit because especially over the Christmas period, the university will shut down for a period of time, and those are not working days. So you'll get your grades back 15 working days later. Saturdays and Sundays and bank holidays are not working days. So just talking a little bit more about assignment 1 to start with. So it's 70% of the module grade will rely on this news writing test. So the majority of the marks for this module rely on the news writing test. You get 1 hour and 30 minutes to write 2 stories, just like you do in the workshops. You write a short story based on some basic information we've given you, then you get some updated information, and you write a longer story. So that takes place at 10 a.m. on Thursday, December the 3rd. So make sure you've noted that down in your phone or diary or however you organise yourself. We will keep on practicing these. There'll be lots and lots of practice through the over the coming weeks. So we're in week 7 at the moment, and you'll get plenty more practice. And you can always look back at all the exercises we've done up to this point. As I said, it's an online test, and we will monitor similarities. Stressing online tests, so you will not turn up that week to the room where you normally have your lectures. You'll be doing your test online. So just really make sure you're aware of that. That on that day you need to find a space where you can log on, have a good connection. You can be undisturbed for an hour and a half from 10 o'clock on Thursday, December the 3rd. And the other thing to stress, it's 3 weeks to go until that test. So still plenty of time to practice, but make sure you are taking advantage of the workshops and the feedback that we're able to give you. The second assignment is the critical analysis of a news story and a log. So let's just look through what that actually means. So this is 30% of your module grade will rely on this assignment, and it has to be handed in at 4 p.m. on Monday, January the 11th. My advice would be to get this nailed before Christmas, so you can relax after Christmas and not have to worry about doing this assignment. So there's nothing to stop you actually cracking on with this right now. So for this assignment, to try and make things a little easier, there's a submission form which is in the assignment folder on Blackboard. So if you look at the assignment 2 folder, which is at the bottom of Blackboard, if you look into the module on Blackboard and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see assignment 2, and you go in there and there's this, and it says something like submission template for assignment 2, and it looks a bit like this. I've just shrunk it down so you can see the 4 pages of that. You fill in your name on the front, and then you choose a news story. It could be any news story, but it needs to be a news story which is being published during the module. And a couple of things to think about. That one news story, it needs to have been published on all the main publishing platforms by a particular publisher. So that means it needs to have been in print and online and on social media. So you need to find a story that's been published by a particular title, and it can be any title, but it needs to be a single title, like the Manchester Evening News or the Guardian or the Mail or the Mirror or the Sun, whoever you want. I don't mind who it is, but as long as that organisation has printed it, published it online, and published it through social media. So have a look for a story. Most stories published by big print publishers will be published on all 3 platforms. So just to stress, it has to be by the same title, because what we're trying to do is get you to compare how that same story was handled by the same organisation, but how it was handled differently given the different platforms. So then you need to write a critical analysis of about 800 words. So you need to compare and contrast the way that the story was treated by the 3 different media platforms by the same title. So if you've chosen a story which is published by, let's say, The Guardian, you look at it in print, so you need to get a print copy of The Guardian. So go and make sure you get a copy of The Guardian. Then look for that same story, the story you choose, whatever story interests you. It can be on the front page, could be inside, I don't mind. But then to look at it in print, look at the headlines, look at the way they've used pictures, look at the way the story's written. Then find it on online on the Guardian's website. If you're using the Guardian, find the same story. Look at the way that the headline is maybe different. Look at the way the pictures are different. What other ways have they used? What other styles have they used in the writing? Is it written in exactly the same way? Have they written it in a longer way, a shorter way? Have they used different words? Have they enhanced the story with different things? Are there graphics online which they don't use in the paper, or vice versa? And then you also need to look for it on social media as well. So how have they projected that story through Insta or Twitter or Facebook or any of these? How have they projected this story through social media? And you'll look at that, and then you'll consider similarities and differences, and you'll look at the positives and negatives of the way that they've been published. Are there more pictures on online, on the online version? Is there more impact with the print version, for instance? Is there more engagement through the social media version? Just have a look at it and have a think about the differences between them. And then think about the media context within which these things are published. Why has that particular organization projected that particular story? And why have they treated maybe the same story in a different way on the different platforms? So just have a really careful think about that single story by that single publisher, but how they've done it differently depending on the different platform that it's gone out on. So here's some issues you should consider. So think about the content, in terms of text, graphics, pictures, video, audio, links, etc. Why have they used it in one and not the other? Think about the way that they've tried to attract readers, particularly with headlines. How have they used headlines differently to attract readers in print as compared to online and social? Have they used the same sources? Have they used the same interviews? How have they tried to achieve balance in the story? They may well do things differently, or they may well do it the same across the different platforms. But have a think about how they've managed to achieve balance. And as I said, have a think about the way that they maybe approach it differently with a different writing style. Other issues, just going through those, how do those different versions of the same story complement each other? How do they help each other drive an audience? How does the reader benefit from each publishing platform? So what does the reader get out of it? But think about what the publisher gets out of it. So maybe start thinking about how they projected advertising within that. And then think about wider issues. And that's where you really need to look at some of the literature. So look at some of the books on the reading list, and this is important. You can't just say what you think. You need to say what you think in the context of what other people have said, what other academics have said. So there's a reading list on Blackboard with the module, and there's some suggestions on the screen now, some of the main textbooks you need to be looking at. So make sure you're looking at those and then reference what they've said in your work. So it needs to be a reference to the academic literature. Things to avoid. So avoid a story that isn't covered on all three media platforms. So don't contact me and said, well, I can't find it online or I can't find it in print. Well, choose a story that is. There are hundreds and hundreds of stories every day. So choose a story that's in print, social media and online. And avoid stories, we're not including broadcast coverage. So this is about print and online and social. And avoid sports stories. We're looking at news stories, so just to stress that, so it needs to be a news story, so not a sports story, not a review, and not an opinion piece. So think carefully about which one you choose. So I'll move on. I'll finish that video there because we're now coming up to about 15 minutes. So I'll have to give you a little break, and then we'll come back to this slide and we'll talk about how you fill in the submission form in a moment. So have a break and come back and watch the second video where we'll look at the submission form and how you submit assignment 2.